Hello, everyone. My name is Lee Simpkins with Lee Simpkins Artwork, and welcome to the International Association of Woodcarvers.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the International Association of Woodcarvers. Today is the 16th of March, 2023, 2024, a little bit after 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to thank you all for coming in today and meeting with us this afternoon. I want to apologize for not being here last week. This has been spring break for my daughter. She actually came in last Saturday, and there were some people that wanted to have a little get together and stuff with her. So I apologize for not being here. I know you were in good hands with Dave Levy and Dave Stetson. I appreciate those guys helping out whenever I'm not available. So thank you all for filling in for me. And I know last week with James McCain was a great meeting. If you all haven't seen that, make sure you go out on YouTube and check out the YouTube videos. All of our meetings are out there from the very beginning, and we're coming up on our 4-year anniversary. So we have almost 200 videos out there on every different topic and all kinds of presenters. So if there's something that you've missed, make sure you go out on YouTube, check out International Association of Woodcarvers. You can see all that there. Before I get started, I just want to say a couple of things. I want to remind you all about Holly Smithson of Helvey Knives. Everybody knows Holly. They released this week that they're going to do a GoFundMe page for her. I think there's quite a few people that's already donated on that. If you're interested in helping them out, make sure you go out and go to Helvey's website. I think they have it pinned there at the top of their, or not their website, but on their Facebook page. They've got it pinned on there. Rich is probably going to have to miss some work to help take care of Skylar and also to help Holly get back and forth to treatments and stuff. So anything that you can donate to help them out is going to be very much appreciated. So keep Holly in your thoughts and prayers. Reach out to her, encourage her. It's going to be a battle for her, and we want to see her pull through this. So just want to bring that up. Also, I heard from Matt Allen this week of Deep Holler Knives. His wife also has cancer, and he's going to be just selling his Deep Holler Knives on their website. They're not going to be sending any out to vendors to sell from vendors. He just released 100 knives, I think yesterday or maybe this morning on their website. If you're interested in supporting them and you also are looking for a good knife, go out and buy one from them off their website. Again, it's Deep Holler Knives, and Matt would appreciate it. Again, thoughts and prayers for his wife and family. They've been through this a few times before, and so it's a continued battle for them. So I just want to bring those things up, keep you all kind of in the loop as far as what's going on. You know, wood carving community is more like family. When something happens to one, it really happens to all of us. So just keep these guys in your prayers and wish them well and do everything you can to try to support them. Tell you a little bit about some workshops that are coming up. If you want to get involved in workshops, I know some of you all came in from Dave Stetson's class this morning. Some of the things that are going to be going on coming up this summer. Janet Cordell is going to have a class on April the 26th on a horse jumping offense. So if you want to sign up for that class, reach out to Janet Cordell and get signed up for it. Saw today that Dave Stetson has another class that he's posted. It's going to start on June the 1st. It's wood carving 5-piece cowboys and friends. So if you're interested in that, I know Dave likes to finish a class before he starts taking on new members for his upcoming class. But keep an eye on that. Put that on your radar. And Dave will be the person you need to contact to get signed up for it. Again, that's on June the 1st. We'll be talking about that more in the coming weeks. And then in August, Ryan Olson has a class on carving handsome hunks and heartthrobs. He just got finished doing a woman's class not too long ago. So this will go hand in hand with that. So just want to bring those things to your attention. Remember the Wood Carving Academy. You can go out and subscribe there 1 month, 3 months, and a year. The Wood Carving Academy allows you to go out and learn at your own pace. So make sure you take advantage of that. Sign up. It's probably the best value as far as learning wood carving out there on the market. So make sure you check it out. Also, we had Alec Lacoste on back in February. He's got the fundamentals of wood carving class that he teaches in. That's through his website. So check out Alec Lacoste, Fundamentals of Wood Carving. and he'll be happy to get you signed up there. And he's got quite a bit of content out there, so check it out. Having said all that, today I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dave Stetson. He's going to come on and do our words of wisdom, and then I'll introduce our speaker for today and talk about our upcoming schedule. So Dave, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right, we try to inspire with this International Association of Woodcarvers by seeing what other people do, and oftentimes we wonder if we are up to the challenge. But I think it's important to remember what I'm going to share with you today is that if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. And some of us are not really open to change, but we just need to start. And you don't have to be great to start, but you need to start to be great.
All right, Dave, thank you so much. Everybody looks forward to Dave's words of wisdom weekly, and I appreciate what you've said there. It's for sure. And the thing I always say is put your knife in the wood. The only way you're going to get started is to get started. So make sure you take advantage of the classes, carve every day, try to support the vendors and, the shows and things that are in your local area. There's tool vendors there and wood that can be purchased. So make sure you go out and take advantage of that at every opportunity. Today on our meeting, we've got a friend of mine that he and I have communicated for quite a long time. He's one of these guys whose work, once you see it, you recognize it. He has a unique way of painting. I think he's going to talk a little bit about that. We've got Lee Simpkins coming to us from right outside of Atlanta, Georgia. I like to throw that Atlanta, Georgia thing in there because I'm going to say go Braves. Baseball season is getting ready to start. Don't let that discourage you from coming on these meetings, but we're looking forward to baseball season. But having said all that, Lee, I appreciate you coming on today. Look forward to hearing what you have to share with us and seeing some of your carvings. And we'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thanks a lot, Blake, and I appreciate the opportunity to come on and speak for a little while. I know you asked me to sort of explain my carving journey. I don't really look at it, I guess, as a journey as much as I do a road trip with lots of snacks and lots of bathroom stops. So, but I've been carving roughly for about around 40 years. The first 8, I didn't do that much carving. It was kind of hit and miss. And I started out with decoys. Those were my first love. And I kind of just really stumbled on to carving them. I actually was in a shop one day with my mother antiquing and came across a whole wall of antique decoys. I mean, these were hunting decoys. They weren't decorative. And I spotted one that just, man, it was like the sun came out and shined down on it. And it was a Mason decoy. Some of you may be familiar with Masons, but they were a company that existed during the what they call market gunning period. That was where they actually hunted for ducks on the Chesapeake Bay area and all the way up the East Coast. But the Masons were actually made, I think they went out of business in the 1920s. So they are antiques. And they were actually made on a lathe. But I really loved that bird, and I wanted to buy it so bad, but I picked it up, and this was like 1980, and that bird was $500. So my collecting career went the way of the dodo quickly. But I never lost interest in them, so I started trying to find out as much information as I could on decoys and decoy. I really didn't even look for decoy carving. I just looked for information on decoys. And but subsequently, while I was looking for information on the decoys, I discovered tons of books on carving. And this was pre-internet, so there was no, getting on. I had to actually go to a library or a bookstore to find what I wanted. But anyway, bought a few books, fiddled around, carved a few decoys here and there. I might do one a year. Even got into some competitive, what I thought was competitive carving. But I actually found a shop over in Stone Mountain, Georgia, which is also a suburb of Atlanta. That was it was all decoy carvers, and they were all competitive carvers getting ready for the World Championships and the Ward Brothers competitions. And it was like, I was like a kid in the candy store going in there because they had all the, every kind of, I guess, knife and gouge that I'd ever want. But I continued to go over there mainly for supplies. And I think the guy that owned the shop actually felt sorry for me, so he kind of helped me get started. But I kept going over there off and on up until it was one day, and it was I think the weekend after Thanksgiving of 1990. I was went over to pick up something, I don't know, but there were two guys that owned the shop, and I was friends with one of them, but the other one I didn't see much. But he was there that day, and he was sitting out front. He had brought in these little Santas, and his name was Dick Chenoweth, and he had carved. They were very, kind of crude Santas, not very complicated at all. But he was he was carving and painting as well as had some displayed, and he was kind of selling them just like that, left and right. The shop was right on the main thoroughfare there in Stone Mountain, so their shop was everywhere. But anyway, I told my other friend in Suddenville, and I said, that looks pretty cool. I mean, I might want to do my mother a Santa for Christmas. And he said, well, I've got a book over there on the shelf that will tell you everything you need to know about carving Santa Claus. And it's from somebody that's right here in our area. And I bought that book, and I still have it today, matter of fact. Some of you may have it. It's carving Santas of Special Interest and by Mr. Ron Ransom. And I was fortunate to meet Mr. Ransom several times over the course of his lifetime. He, again, only lived about 25 miles from me. And he was always an extremely gracious person. And everyone that I've met that ever met him said the same thing about him. So I kind of just, devoured his book. Didn't know what I was doing at first. The day I was over there, I bought me a small piece of basswood and a cheap little knife. I had some knives at home, but they were not what I wanted to carve something like that with. So anyway, I came home and started on a little Santa Claus, and I didn't so much carve it as I bludgeoned it. And so that's my first Santa. Did it in 1990. And I need to apologize to someone before I get started today too. I've been watching several of the videos and trying to see what people are talking, how they're presenting themselves. And I pulled up Dave Francis today, and I need to apologize to him because I think I'm going to sound like I'm plagiarizing his video. We had so many things in common, and his thoughts were exactly what would be coming out of my mouth. He actually started with Ransom's book too. So Dave, if you're listening, or if you ever see this video, I do apologize. I'm not stealing any of your thunder there. But when I started carving, I just was just doing it for fun. Like I said, I did that one for my mother before Christmas, gave it to her. I did, I think, 2 more before Christmas. I still have my 3rd Santa. My brother-in-law has my 2nd, but that's my 3rd. Again, this is a Ransom pattern as well. But I really got into the Santas. I was still carving some decoys. Got me started back into carving, period. And I had learned how to carve fish as well, which I still love fish. Probably fish are my favorite thing to carve. And I try to incorporate them into my Santas as much as possible too, because I'm so swamped with Santa carving right now that that's what I have to do. Although I'm changing some things this year. But anyway, I continued to go with Mr. Ransom style, and also found a couple other books on Santa carving. At the time, there was what's the guy on the West Coast? Tom Wolfe is here, and gosh, I'm drawing a blank right now. You guys probably know what I'm talking about, but I looked at several books and still kept being drawn back to Mr. Ransom style, which is what I've stayed with. And even my Santas nowadays, you can still see his influence in them, I feel like. Also, when I started out too, I was, carving strictly the way he was doing them. I've got this little Santa used to drive me crazy. I used to love it. It's my first Noah's Ark Santa. Again, it's Mr. Ransom's pattern. But I was so, maybe I guess I'm OCD or whatever you call it. But the fact that it was not a 3-dimensional ark, So I kept looking for ways to get around it and make it a three-dimensional art. So I started playing around and trying to get a full three-dimensional art out front, and I carved one and really enjoyed that one. And then I got to looking at them and I said, well, maybe I could just start doing that and adding other things. So I started taking my own patterns of things that I enjoyed doing and subjects. So I did a lot of arcs. I did a lot of geese, like decoys. Goes back to my decoy carving, raggedy ants. You know, I was carving, you know, full-bodied Santas, not the ones with the pieces flushed to the body. And I just evolved over the years. I really, probably the 91, I was really, I put 91 is a very important time because that's when I really started carving. It's also a time when my wife and I were married. So we've been married 33 years. And so I've been carving Santas for 33 years. Again, I've tried to put my own spin on it and my own style. I haven't seen that many carvers. I'm not familiar with that many people. And it's basically by choice. And I don't get online. Like I said, Blake and I have people that I follow. I know a lot more since I've been on social media. I was not real big on it, but and I like Instagram a whole lot better than I do Facebook. So I follow a lot of people on Instagram, and there's a lot of talent out there, and I enjoy seeing things other than sounds. But I was trying to think where I probably over the first 10 years I was evolving more. I started trying to. Well, I actually did all of my what I'm trying to spit out. All of my sounds have a ponytail. That's my signature. I started doing that about maybe the first year I was carving, but they were flat. They weren't full. But it's made my work, I think, a little more recognizable because I've seen some people that maybe I don't know if they got it from me, but they've kind of tried to do them. But mine, I think, are very distinctive. I went from basically somewhere maybe around 2010. I tried to get away from more of a folk look to more of a realistic look. And I've been trying to master that for about the last 8 years since I retired. And I have plenty of time to carve, which I just about carve every day. And I have a studio space here. I live in Rockmart, Georgia, which is we're about 50 miles northwest of Atlanta. And I have a studio space here in the Rockmart Cultural Arts Center. I'm here with 4 other artists. 2 are oil painters. Or excuse me, yeah, 2 oil painters. One's a fused glass, and the other, we have a potter downstairs. And we have open studios. We have a tremendous director here, Peggy Klein, who was she's done wonders for this gallery. We have, she puts on shows that are equivalent to anything you can find in the Atlanta area. So I've been very, very privileged to be here and made a lot of contacts too. Plus, probably 80 to 90% of the people that come through to see us and see me are not from here. They're from out of town. So that's another great thing that I've had and enjoyed for the last 3 to 4 years. It's also, I have 24-hour access to 7 days a week, and it's climate controlled for a very, very cheap fee. But behind me here, you can see some of my Santas. I'll show you a few. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, because I'm probably just rambling and I don't like dead air. But I feel like my Santas are distinct in that you can kind of spot them now. Some of the old ones, you know, you might have confused them with the ransom Santa, but maybe over the last 20 years at least, you can kind of recognize mine. I feel like I'm an okay carver, but I feel like I'm a much better painter than I'm a carver. Simply because I come from a painting background. I have a Bachelor of Art in a BA in fine art. So I started my background is in oil painting and illustration. So I haven't painted though on a canvas in, good Lord, I don't know when. The closest thing I've done to painting on the canvas or some of the, you might be able to see some of the signs I have up there. I love anything New England. I love old trade signs. So I got into those heavily. And I love the fact that I can actually mix painting with carving. You can actually, I love mixing, being able to mix 2D with 3D. And to me, that's just, I enjoy those more than anything really. But Santas have been very, very profitable for me. I didn't go into it for the money or for as a business, but it evolved over the years. And it's, my Santas have made a lot of house payments and a lot of car payments, I'll say that. So I've tried to cut back. I very seldom, most of my work now is orders or commissions, whichever one you want to call them. Good grief, what's going on here? Can you still see me? Okay. Am I still on, Blake?
Yeah, you're good. Yep.
Okay, good. But it's very seldom that I have pieces of work just for sale. I don't mean that to sound egotistical, but it's just the way it's worked out for me. I used to do shows, 1 or 2 shows a year. It got to be where they were more of a hassle, and I had people calling me wanting to know what I was going to have at the show before I got to the show. And I even up into some of the latter parts, or the last shows I did, I actually had people standing around waiting for me to open a box. They come up and say, I want this, that, and this. And before the show was open, I was sold out. And I told them, I said, look, you can't take the Santas with you. You've got to at least let me have them sit here and take orders. But it just got to be where it was just a waste of time to go to the shows. And plus, you know, the entry fees and travel, and like I said, just a hassle of packing up and doing the shows. I've kind of missed the social part of it. Matter of fact, I did a show with 2 friends this past spring. I have a little collaboration that 3 of us do together occasionally anyway, and I enjoyed it. I did have some extra pieces thanks to 2 wonderful people that came into my life about 22 years ago. And I need to, if you'll just bear with me, I need to thank them publicly. Their names are Russ and Pat Hauser. I first met them about, like I said, about 22 years ago, just casually. And we would kept running into each other here and there. And I told them that I was a woodcarver. And they started coming to my shows, and we became friends, and they also became patrons. They started purchasing, 4 or 5 Santas a year of whatever. I didn't do just Santas. They bought other things as well, but they took care of it. And we became really good friends. And then later they became literally family. They came to my son's football games, my daughter's soccer matches, her dance recitals, the graduations, everything. They were there. And they've just been wonderful friends. But about 4 years ago, they don't have any children. About 4 years ago, Russ, well, I think it's been a little longer. Russ was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and he's not doing very well at all right now. But I used to always love going over to their house, because when I went over, it was kind of like seeing a little mini museum of my work. So I was always, you know, sometimes I'd go over there, I'd see a piece and I had forgotten that I did. But anyway, to make a long story endless, about a year ago, Pat sent me a text and asked me to come over, and they'd like to discuss something with me. I went over, and I believe they had an excess of 30, maybe 40 pieces of my work. But she told me, she said, we had been collecting with every intention of giving all of your work back to your children after we passed or whenever you passed. And she said, but we've decided we want you to have it now so you can enjoy it. So I've never received a more selfless act than my wife and that, and they gave me everything that they had purchased from me back. And you're talking about not only the number of pieces, but a price figure in 5 figures. But that's why I have some pieces to sell. Excuse me, to show today is just simply from their courtesy of giving them back to me so I can show them. They really had about 4 or 5 of my pieces that I would put in my top 10 of pieces of work that I've done. So they're special and they're not going anywhere. These are what you see behind me is pretty much my private collection. So I don't know, maybe you may have seen this one if you saw the Woodcarver Illustrated Great Santa Carve Off. This was the piece that I had in it. Again, it's mine. It's got the ponytail, but I like doing very, very unconventional Santas. I made a decision when I first started carving. I didn't want to do a Coca-Cola Santa. I just didn't. I wanted to have a. Matter of fact, a lot of the designs that I found, I actually discovered looking at old Christmas cards and postcards, and I wanted much more of a European-looking Santa as opposed to traditional American Santa. But I also I describe my carvings as carvings within carvings. I have the base body of the Santa, and then I have so many additional carvings on top of that. I used to carve the hands on when I first started, but I always try to carve my hands separately. A lot of people have asked me about that, and I can carve a hand on the Santa, which I can show you right now. Here's one of the ones I have in progress, and I actually did carve that hand. So that's unusual for me though. But I usually do not. Usually the Santas I carve have their arms attached. Usually, if I'm attaching arms, I've screwed up somewhere, and that's just my way of correcting it. So with this one, it's just as rough as it can be. And like I say, I've learned how to add the arms and things out of necessity. The one thing that carving has done for me, I think I went into it with an artist mindset, but over the years, I've become a craftsman. And I think I enjoy that because I know that I can make things now, I can fabricate things, whereas in the past, I think I would probably been afraid to even try. But necessity, makes you create things, and that's what I've done. So I don't worry about making mistakes anymore. I think there's some way to correct them, which I do. I don't use patterns. I did when I was using Mr. Branson's patterns out of the book. But over the years, I would just simply rough draw the pattern. I have an idea of where the carving's going. I don't know for sure, but to me, one of the fun things is the end result. Because, like I say, I have an idea of what I want it to look like, but it never ends up looking like what I had originally planned. My carvings are also pretty static. I don't put much motion in them, so but that's why I try to use different arm location, different feet placements, things like that to add a little interest, not just be standing there. I really enjoy Halloween as well. It was a market that opened up for me about, I guess I've been carving Halloween figures for about 3 years. I didn't know the market was out there, but I found out quickly that it was, and I really do well with it every fall. I really start carving Halloween about this time of year, and I'm behind. But I try to do something a little bit quirky, a little bit different. I still like to do things that you can pretty much tell they're still mine. I work strictly in basswood, just like most of you do. I have tried, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Jewelton, but a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine here, Angela Garner Philpott, and Blake, I gave you some information about her. She is an unbelievable artist. I think she would be a great person to come on and discuss her work. But she had worked almost strictly in Jewelton, and I never had. I've got one little piece around here somewhere. I think I tried on. Got where oh, here it is. Very lightweight, but this is a little Georgia Sounder. I do a ton of these little things right here. Where you live, not only in the heart of Braves country, but this is college football country. People are very, very passionate about it. I've carved so many Georgia Sounders. I basically use for my football. I've been doing this football sounder design probably for, oh gosh, 20, 25 years. I made a few adjustments to it, but I'm probably going to lose my SEC card and my Southern card all at once for showing the Michigan State Center. But this is for a friend's mother. When I first started, I was, like everybody else, doing X marks for the shoelaces. But one day I just sat down and figured, I said, I should be able to do some kind of laces. I don't know if you can see them real well or not, but I figured out a way to actually lace shoes. And I like incorporating other materials into my carvings, not just purely wood. I use a lot of leather. I use a lot of wire. And I use for the laces, I started out with a nylon serving line, which is what I use in archery. And it's real thin, works real well, but I have gone to hemp. And hemp works extremely well. I like it. It's very, very flexible. And I can work with it a lot quicker than I could in serving. So it's got speed. I'm not a fast carver. My pieces have a lot of time in them. And they're not cheap. I don't mean that to sound arrogant either, but I just, the amount of time I have in them is what makes them more expensive. But that's where I am right now with my carving. Are there any questions, anything anybody would like to ask or see?
Yeah, Lee, there's just a couple things in the chat I'll run with you here. Do you have a pricing structure? I know you just said that it's based on how long you have into the pieces. Can you talk a little bit about your pricing, or is that something? Do you do it based on so much per hour, or is there a way that you do your pricing?
Yeah, I figured it's kind of hard for me to price them at times. I guess maybe a base Santa would start about, and a base Santa, I mean about somewhere between 6 and 8 inches, depending on the detail, would start somewhere around 150, 175 and run up to maybe 250, somewhere in that area. Some can go for 3, depending on what they've got. Some of the bigger Santas, the general price range that mine are in are around the $350 to $500 range. Some of the bigger ones, of course, are I sold a few that are pushing 1,000, but those are few and far between. Matter of fact, my wife had done on me years ago too, and some of my friends as well, to come up with some sort of a point of sale piece that was much more cheap and more affordable. And so I came up with a few little things that were in like the $40 to $50 range. Let me see if I've got one over here somewhere. Please back here, just bear with me for a second. I don't waste any wood. I'm real stingy when it comes to wood. That's one reason sometimes you'll see me attach arms. It's the fact that if I'm doing something like a spread where they would have birds or something on the arms, if I cut all that out under it to get the arms on it, to me that's just wasting the wood. I've got a whole space under there, and that way I could just carve the body and attach the arms and move along. But, and also I save all my scraps for things like, like say a Raggedy Ann, pineapples, things like that. I carve to add to the Santas. But I started carving these little Santas years ago. The first one I think probably did about 10 years ago, and they were based like a cone, and I called them cone heads. And I came in one day and I decided that I just sat down one day and did just a little quick Santa. Had little movable arms, the whole little tiny legs on them. And they came out something like this. This is like a $40 Santa. And the little arms move. This one doesn't because it's attached, but and then I have one that there's another little one. These were a curse to a certain extent because I didn't expect how they would sell. I believe it was 3 Christmases ago was when I first brought them out. And I started carving them a little bit before Thanksgiving. I showed them for the first time a little before Thanksgiving. And between Thanksgiving and Christmas, I carved 45 of them. And I was going insane because it was nothing but production work. I mean, I was putting in 16 hours some days to try and get caught up with all of them. And I hated every moment of it. And after that Christmas, I vowed I'd never carve another one again. But the very next Christmas, a very dear person in my life who passed away recently called me, and she was like a second mother to me. And I grew up really with her family. She asked me if I would carve her, I believe it was 13 for her kids and grandchildren. And I was going, oh, Lord, no, please, please. But and she said, I know, I hate to ask you. But I said, her name was Miss Ann Keller. And I said, Miss Keller, you better be glad I love you because I wouldn't have done it for anybody else. But anyway, I carved another 13. And that was the end of those, except for, of all things, her daughter, the next year asked me if I would carve 4. And I did consent and do 4 of those. So, but, I still try to keep some Santas, though, like the little Georgia Santa I showed you. This size, these are usually around, I do those for anywhere between $60 and $95. They're under 100. I actually had some Santa's cast years ago. This was a little design, and it is a cast. It's not a carved, it's a polyester resin. Had a company out of High Point, North Carolina, did them for me. Learned a lot about casting. I haven't had any casts since then, though. I try to just stay with the originals, but this year I've changed my plans a little bit. I'm to the age where I'm tired. Believe me, I'm very appreciative of the money, but I'm to the point where I want to do some carving and carve some things that I want to do and not just orders. The last year I started carving for myself. In other words, I would carve something and say, here it is, it's for sale if you want to buy it. I did do maybe 6 commission pieces last year, but I did cut back. And now I'm just to the point where I just want to carve to be carved. Because I got into it as there's entertainment's joy. I mean, it's something that I thoroughly love. I mean, I still have very few things in my life I have passion for, but it's one of the things that I really have a passion for. And I just, I'm tired of not doing what I want to do. So I'm just going in that direction right now. I've carved 5 pieces since the first year, and none of them were done to sell. I mean, if somebody wants to buy them right now, I'll sell them, but I haven't put any of them out there for sale. So for sale. I love this little piece right here. I've gotten a lot of comments about it. Again, this let me combine a little bit of 3-dimensional figure with some signage. This particular Santa was really a screw up. I had the Santa sitting in front of me, but I'm looking at a wall right now, but I had him sitting in front of me for about, I think, almost 2 years. I had originally he didn't have arms, so he was just a body and a head. And I had originally planned on him having his arms out. I was going to do another center with birds on the arms, but I really I screwed up the hat that I was trying. I was trying a new hat. And I screwed it up. And I got real frustrated with it, and I just kind of said, "The heck with it," and sat it over there. And I kept looking at it and looking at it and looking at it. So I got it out one day, and I decided I was going to do put arms on it with fish on both arms hanging down. Didn't like the way that looked. So I remember a gentleman somewhere up in New England had sent me a picture of a lobster sign. It was a rather three-dimensional figure holding a lobster. And I said, well, I'll just do that. Try that. So one thing led to another, and I finally finished it. And the hat, I just adjusted and just made it kind of a little beanie hat instead of the normal hood or cap. So again, we told you I like to incorporate different things. The lobster, the claws are separate. The body is a single piece. I carved the claws. I actually tried to carve the legs, me being me, and it just didn't work. So I just, I was sitting here, I looked over and I keep some wire over there. I said, well, heck, I'll just try the wire and see how they look with the legs. And so I thought it turned out well. I don't know anything about lobster fishing. I mean, my God, I'm from the South, and everybody down here fishes for bass. But I need to do a little house cleaning here too. So I had to go on Pinterest and find buoys and things like that. And somebody asked me what the significant, the numbers on the buoys were, and I said I had no clue. Some of y'all might know, but I'm assuming it's something to do with the people that are the fishermen marking their spots. I've got another request to do a big one of these, and I've got to decide if I want to or not. So, but I've been pleased with it. Again, I've always enjoyed doing football centers. I really would like to know how many of those I've done. Of course, my big one is being from Georgia, and the success that UGA's had in football recently. I've done a ton of those. I've even done some with a white English bulldog attached to them. So you can see those. I think there's one on my Instagram page if you want to go in and look at some of them. But that's kind of where I am. This one, particular Santa 2, some of you might have seen it, but Woodcarver Illustrated used it on one of their ads, I think. It's probably one of my favorites. It just turned out well. People have told me my Santas favor me. Maybe they do. I don't know, but they're bound to because anytime I start looking at a nose and I'm not too sure, I'll feel my own nose. So I guess maybe they do. But again, the joy that I get out of it is really the adding things to it. I enjoy carving the body, but to me, the fun is really adding the additional carvings to it. My painting, I told Blake I'd speak about it because I watched several videos that you've had on there. I don't paint like most people. I paint strictly with heavy body acrylics. And that is, I don't use scrap paints. The brand that I like the best is Liquitex heavy body acrylics. The difference in most of you may have used them, but the difference is they're extremely high quality paint. The viscosity level, the color, the pigmentation is just so much better, and it's that's what I was trained to use, the acrylics and oils. And but I look at my carvings, they go into two phases. One is carving, and then that's one part of it, and the second is the painting. And the painting can be rather lengthy at times too. Also, I didn't talk to you about the hair texturing and beards. I don't even own a V2, so I have always burned my hair and my beards. I started that. I don't know what made me do it, but I did it when I first started carving Mr. Ransom patterns. But I like the look of it. I've done very few things without burning. I just like the look. But my painting style, I don't. It's rare that I use any color straight out of the tube. Just about everything you see on my paint on my piece is a mixture, including white. There are two particular colors that I have to have in my arsenal, and one of them is an unbleached titanium white, and the other one is a red oxide. The red oxide and the titanium, unbleached titanium, is what I use my flesh colors, but they're blended. It's not just one color. I blend in the cheeks, the nose. I can hide a lot of my carving mistakes with my painting, especially around the nose area. And I also don't seal my. That was one thing I was going to bring. I don't seal my wood. I paint directly on. I mean, I carve, I sand it briefly, and I feel like I seal the wood with layers of paint. And I don't thin my paint except the first, second layers. They're somewhat thin, but when I get into the third or fourth layer, it's just flat out, non-diluted, and it just gives it a depth. And I also seal it. Every piece is painted black first, except the face. And I do paint the face and the beard, and then I start blocking in everything black. And I just found out years ago that there's something about that putting in the black that gives the paint another depth, a little bit more depth, and just a richness, I think, that it gives to it. I also use a lot of dry brush technique for shading. I don't shade that much. I used to shade a lot. This one was one of the first ones that I had really done some shading on in a while. Been up into the arm areas, down into the pants, and there was a particular carver. It's Ethno Creations. Just a sweet, very talented artist, Roxana. She does beautiful little pieces. They're really, she turns simple carvings into extremely complex pieces. And I noticed it made me reevaluate my carving techniques and rethink it, because I had stopped shading, and it definitely makes a difference. So I've started doing that again. But I was going to, like I say, that's the paint to me. If I have so many layers of paint on it, that's enough to seal. I don't know anything about boiling linseed oil, so all of that's new to me when I hear y'all talking about it. My antiquing stain is nothing but, it's so complicated. It's brown shoe polish, nothing more, nothing less. Put it on with a old toothbrush, buff it out, wipe it off. I use neutral shoe polish to clean it up, and that's the secret to my staining. Like I say, it's not rocket science. So I'm just kind of running out of things to say. If there's any other questions, Blake, that somebody might want to ask.
Yeah, we had one other question about the tools you use. You mentioned you don't use a V tool. What tools do you use in your process?
Oh, that's one thing. I am so envious of just about everybody I see, because you all have, these wonderful chisels and tools, and they're so beautifully displayed. And I have about 5 knives and 2 chisels, and that's what I work with. That's about it. I'm not comfortable with chisels. I've never, simply because I haven't used them. The two chisels I have are both 1/2 inch. One's just a flat chisel and one's a skew. But everything else is just regular knives. I've had up until about 3 or 4 months ago, I had just strictly used flex cut knives. I've had a couple of custom knives in the past. I've never had a Helvey. I'd love to have one of those because I see everybody with them. But over the last 3 months, for the woodcarving illustrated contest, I won a little prize for that, and I used the prize to buy 3 Badger State blades, and I've been very, very pleased with them. I got their thin blades. The only thing I really need, I need a good roughing knife, and I'm open for suggestions there. I've tried the flex cut knife, and I don't like it. I can't get it sharp enough, and that's another one of my weaknesses. I'm not great at sharpening. I'm trying to learn, but to me, the biggest problem I have is a good roughing knife would save me a lot of time, because I'll take a flex cut detailing knife, one of the long details, and I'll use that in my roughing. And when you're getting on something like a piece like this, that's a lot of carving just to get it down to a point. I just got this tack because he's top heavy. But this is another thing that I use too, is when I was talking to you about, I use different things. As you can see, this is wire, this is hemp that I just simply saturated with gold paint. Said I don't use craft paint. This is gold craft paint that I put. I use my gold. But I have very limited tools. I just don't have them, and I'm comfortable carving with knives. I don't have any vices. I'm a person that I hold my pieces to carve in one hand, and I don't like gloves. So as a result of not liking gloves, I've had some pretty serious cuts. I don't know if you can see that finger right there, but I almost took that finger off about, it's probably about 20 years ago. But I was carving a piece of red cedar, and people ask me, I use red cedar. I used to. The only reason I used it was because of a contractor, a friend I had, he brought me a bunch of red cedar beans. And I thought I would take them and at least use them for mammals or something like that. But I found out that they made really good decoy bodies. So that's why I kept them. I still got some of them left. But the ducks that you see over here, my mermaid, you can see her or not, she's over there. She's the one that got me. My advice, people ask me about red cedar and what I would advise, or how I advise him to carve red cedar. And the first piece of advice I give you is don't carve it. Because the only cedar I know, there's northern cedar, northern white cedar, which is used in decoy bodies, and I think maybe the northern red cedar is a little bit different from the pieces that we have down here, because the cedar wood down here, the grain is so open. It's got a hard piece and a soft spot. But I was carving one day on that one, and you really can't carve red cedar, or at least I can't, with a knife. And I don't like power carving, and I don't do it often. I have a Fordham tool that I purchased years ago, just strictly for decoys, just to shape the bodies. But that's about the only way to carve red cedar. And that one over there, that piece that I showed you, was just purely power carved. I ended up breaking the tail on that thing about probably 4 or 5 times and having to dowel it back on. But anyway, the knife went through on that finger and cut all my flexor tendons. They all went down into the center of my hand. I had to have surgery about 3 days later. That's my stabilizing finger, as most it is, I'm sure, for all y'all too. But since then I've taken off the knuckle 2 or 3 times and super glued it back on. But I've started trying to carve with a glove occasionally now, but it's just, I don't know. I like to feel things. I'm tactile. I like to feel the wood. But again, this finger is pretty much useless except for stabilization and picking my nose, and that's about it. So you have to be careful with the woods. And I tell people, and all of you know, it's not a matter of if you're going to cut yourself, it's a matter of when. It's just, and you do not. I understand the old adage, you don't cut yourself with a sharp knife. It's usually you're pushing too hard with a dull knife or trying to do something you shouldn't be doing. So. But yeah, I'm a very Spartan carver when it comes to tools. I do have actually I was lying to you. I do have a set of chisels, and because Pat Hauser, my friend that I was talking to you about, that donated the pieces to us, but she gave me a set of palm chisels that I haven't really used, but that's where I am with my tools.
Hey, Lee, can you talk a little bit about how you add on the pieces to your carvings? Do you dowel all that stuff in there, or how do you add like the stuff in the back?
Yeah. Well, just give 2 or 3 examples. This one is roughly, you can see the basket there. It's got about 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 8 pieces of fruit. They're all doweled into that basket right there, and I use toothpicks for most of my doweling. Back over here. This one too. I do use doweling I use toothpicks for the hands most of the time, or either a toothpick or about an 8 inch. 1/8 inch dowel, or common for me. But like I say, these are all. See, he's loose right now. I need to glue him back down. But what I'll do is I'll carve the basket. I'll carve these. Actually, put a piece in the bottom of them, and just simply glue them down in there. It's, again, not rocket science. It's just something I figured out, and it works. So. This was pretty neat because it's actually got sliced bread. That one is just simply glued down. I actually just carved the actual piece of the loaf, and then I actually put it on a bandsaw, cut it, and painted it. So, but it's doweled to the cutting board, and the knife is, of course, glued in, and the little butter jar there, dish is sort of doweled into the cutting board too. Hands are separate, they're cut in. But here's a, excuse me 1 second, I'll get these pieces because if you want to see dowels, this has got dowels. I did this piece, I had back surgery this time last year, and so I was out of commission. I had it, the first back surgery in March. I had some severe complications, and they had to go back in May and open me up again. So I was stuck at home, but I did take my knives with me. I was telling Blake and Dave that for those of you that don't know, this is a moonshine still. I grew up in a part of the country out here, and I know Blake, up in where he lives, with the notorious up there as well. But I lived it. My grandfather was a notorious moonshiner and bootlegger. Quite a character of a man, but so I was privy to see moonshine stills in operation at a young age, and I told him my mother would have probably killed him if he had me out there with him. But anyway, this was kind of a tribute to him. And plus, like I say, I was at home. I didn't have anything to do, and I had taken all of this out of scrap as well too. No, you can't. Maybe you can, if I can flip this over, where you kind of see it from that view. These are little barrels in the back here, and even got my dead man's hen playing cards there. It's funny. I had thought I'd finished it up, and one of the ladies next door, the painter, said, "You don't have a hound dog." So I put the hound dog in at the last minute, and this was a fun piece. I like playing around it. There was no pressure with this one. I just simply was doing what I wanted to do at the time, and that's where I hope I'll be able to go this year with it and father on it. Plus, we became grandparents for the first time as well. So I was able to carve my grandson his first Christmas ornament. And so that was a pleasure. I'm hoping I'll be around for a little bit longer to do more for him. But things like this I enjoy. Turn the camera around just a little bit so you can see. Maybe that's the cigar store Indian I did back in right around 2000. Again, it was a part of his collection that Pat and Russ had that they returned to me. You can see the bear on a pole. Sat on a pole there. I love this particular piece back there, the whale. That's probably about my favorite piece that I have and that I've ever done. It was the actual whale was done from a scrap piece of wood I actually found on the side of the road. And I'm always looking for stuff. I like to find wood, especially for when I'm doing like decors. I like decors with imperfections. So I'm always trying to find wood that's usable, but with imperfections. I love the way they look. I love to paint them, and I use I'm real big into finishes on my decors. I know I don't do much of finish on the Santas, but on the decors, I learned years ago, quite by era, that we're talking about sealing. I was trying to find some sort of polyurethane or something that would give it that antique look, and I discovered by accident to use instead of using what they call a seal, sand seal is what I'm trying to get at. On the wood prior to painting, I started putting it on the wood after I painted it. I take double or 4/0 steel wool and just kept rubbing it down. I put about 4 or 5 coats, and it just I'm really, really happy with that. I need to get back into that because I thoroughly enjoy working with finishes. And I've got a real close friend who's real big with it too. Got into some other things. If you go on my my Instagram page, I got into doing what I call little vignettes with houses. A friend of mine, Sonny York, is a furniture maker and restorer, and he does some carving as well. But he had started doing some houses. This is just a basic one he brought me to work on. But he brought me one of his houses over that he had done for his daughter, and I thought it was great. And I turned and sat it down, and I had carved a little figure of Wednesday Adam. It was a pumpkin head. My Halloween figures are all based on pumpkin heads, but I think she was about 6 inches high. And I had finished her up, and I put the little house down by her. And I looked at it, I said, that's almost to scale. That would be really neat to try to do a little something with it. So I asked Sonny to just bring me a house over, and he brought me one over, and I just took it and ran with it and turned it into, if you ever saw the Wednesday series on Netflix, my daughter turned me on to it, and I watched it. I thought it was going to be real juvenile, but it's actually a really good series. But I turned the house into the Nevermore Academy. I did a second figure, and Enid, I think, was her name. She was the werewolf. had claws. I even did the hand with it, but this is actually a mini Wednesday that I've got yet to paint. I've done her. I was gonna, you kind of see a little bit the way they would go with it. So those have been fun. I always keep things around that I can add. I never, I'll carve things, and you're talking about the attachments plate. I'll carve pieces that I maybe intend on using as an attachment, but I don't like. So, but I never just, discard it. I'll just throw it over in my little cup over here, and chances are I can dig it out and use it on the salmon later. So that's where I am with those.
I'm going to open the floor up and see if there's anybody else that has any questions for you. Anybody want to unmute and ask Lee any questions?
I'm just a little curious about how you do the dowels. Like, are you gluing those into place, or how do you take me through the process of setting up those dowels, like for the moonshine scene?
Yeah, let's see. Let me just see if I've got something I could. I'll leave one of these. There was one that was loose here. Let me see if I can pull one out. All right, here's the. Okay, you can see the basket right here. Okay. This is the boat that went in. What I'll take, not just with the boat, but with a hand or anything else, because see the way it's doweled there. But that's not going to be a real good one to show. But if I have a hand, especially, I normally carve the hands not just as they are. I'll leave a piece of wood down, to hold on to, for one thing, and then I'll get the hand to the length that I want, and I'll clip it off. And I just simply, this is one tool that I can't operate without it. It's an awl. But what I'll do is I'll take, say, that was the hand. I'll just simply take, and you can just simply, drive you a hole in there. Then I'll take a toothpick, simply insert it with super glue. Just, that's not clip. Then just simply, clip it off for about, I'll leave maybe a half inch. Sometimes I might go into the arms, which this one will, so it's really going to look like that. But like say I was going to go with the hand into that arm right there, I just simply line it up. What I do is I take a pencil, just scribble a little bit of a graphite on it, put it up next to the place to center it, and then just go and drill another. I'll drill a hole, and sometimes sometimes I use this, depending on size of the piece, what it needs. If it needs a heavier dowel, I'll use a heavier dowel other than a toothpick. So, but did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Fine.
Hey, Lee, do you use wood glue or do you use super glue, or does it matter?
I use both. For the arms, I'm putting an arm on, I'll use Gorilla Glue, wood glue. I use a Loctite super glue gel primarily for most of the little dowels. But I tell you, I found my friend Sonny York also, he found this glue on Instagram. He was putting his little houses together. He was having trouble holding them together and putting the brads in, and he found this. I think they were Asian carvers, but they were using this glue and had this long tip on it, and they were just coming down the side of it with the glue sticking it. I mean, it was instant like that. And I found some on Amazon. I guess it's called Gulafont, but it's instant adhesive 101. I think it's about $10. It's on Amazon. Now you talk about a glue, that's a glue. The only thing is, it's it's a liquid, it's not a gel. And if your hand's down there, you're going to glue it to something. I'll tell you. I mean, it's that powerful. But I would recommend it. It works extremely well. But you can't beat the just for me for what I use. You know, you can't beat just the Loctite. It's good. Also, I discovered I'm starting to think of things I was going to cover with my paint. I have a friend who got a distributorship and sells a certain paint brand. It's called Fusion Mineral Paint. It is a great paint. I mean, I've never found one that covers like this. I can do probably 2 coats max, and I get the same effect literally that the Liquitex gives me. It's basically, it's a water-based paint. It's a mineral paint. I don't know exactly the compound or how it's made, but the only thing with it is this particular piece right here, the coat is Fusion Mineral Paint. When I first did it, I had a lot of contrast with the lobster. This was much brighter, this color was. You can probably, well, here's the color right here. You can kind of see it, the difference. But when I stained it, it was one of the few that it just completely changed the color. And so there's not the contrast that I would have normally expected. But it's a great paint. I'm not too sure how available it is. It's mainly a furniture paint, but it's one that I like. But it's just I have to be real careful with the stains. I always test it before I stain it now. And I was just looking at this one too, and I forgot to tell you this is actually, this is me saving pieces. Now you can see it right there, but this is actually 2 pieces. I forgot I had glued a lower half and an upper half. So that's actually, that sound is actually 4 pieces. 5 counting the base. So like I say, I'm a scrap freak. I don't throw anything away, and I try to make do and adjust with what I have.
All right. Any other questions for Lee in the chat? We're about up 15 after 4 Eastern time.
Hey Lee, when you're gluing on those arms, especially when they're outstretched, like with the birds on, are you using a larger dowel and then clamping it in place and carving it after, or
Yeah.
exactly?
I do. I use about probably a 1/2 inch dowel, a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch on those, and really just saturate it with glue. That's one thing about, sometimes, you know, I'm not perfect. I don't get it flat enough to where I mean, you can see a gap, and I'll use a wood filler or something. But I found out that this glue that I was just showing you right here, this glue will fill in anything. It's a great filler. I found out just by accident because I started using it to glue on some of the arms and things, and I found out that it's just almost seamless. You can't tell. I use it on the arm. The arm on that football center I had to cut it off right here because I had it out of line, but you can't even see the line on that one because I use that glue on it. So it's just really good for correcting things. But yeah, I just they look like this. I mean, I'm it's about as raw as they come when I put the arms on. I won't say I haven't carved the arms a little bit before I put them on, but I just find it's a lot easier to control the symmetry and the balance with them when they're on, as opposed to trying to carve them and then try to adjust it without them being on. So.
Thanks.
All right. Well, we're at 15 after, Lee. I just want to say thank you for coming on and sharing with us. Your work's always been a big inspiration of mine. And, you know, like I said, anybody who has seen your work and recognize your work and pick it out among everybody else's. So I appreciate you coming on, sharing with us, sharing all the information about painting and stuff like that. And look forward to meeting up with you maybe sometime down the road. Atlanta's not too far from me, so maybe I can get down that way sometime.
Well, I'll be up your way. I'll be passing through Bristol. I think the first week of May, because we've got to go and move my daughter back
Nice.
for the
Well,
summer.
if you do and you want to stop, let me know. I'll meet up with you.
I'll yell at you.
Absolutely. Tell you a little bit about what's coming up in the coming weeks. Next Saturday, we'll have Ray Meyer on. He's on the meeting here today. On the 30th, we're taking off because that's Easter. We've got some other things going on that weekend. On the 6th of April, Rod Gatlin will be coming back in and doing a demonstration with us. Rod's going to be talking about the Charlotte Wood Carving Show that's coming up at the end of April. On the 20th, we've got a gentleman by the name of Tony Tanev that's coming to us from Bulgaria. So that should be an interesting talk. I look forward to hearing what he has to share. You can go out and see him on Instagram by that handle name, Tony_carvings. He does some great work in Bulgaria. I look forward to hearing that. And then Christine Hill's going to come on May the 4th. We'll continue to try to reach out and line up presenters. So each week I'll be coming back and letting you know who we've lined up and try to keep the schedule going. Just want to say thank you all again for coming on with the International Association of Woodcarvers. I know it's warming up outside. There's a lot of shows going on. Make sure you participate in those shows, but come back here on Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll see you next Saturday. Thank you all.
And all we'll need is just that, like we talked about, I'm Lee Simpkins, and just introduce, do you have an Instagram handle?
Just Lee Simpkins Artworks.
Okay, we'll say I'm Lee Simpkins with Lee Simpkins Artwork, and welcome to the International Association of Woodcarvers.
Okay.
And we'll go whenever you are ready.
Okay.
He's a pro.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we didn't even get any bloopers out of that. Good job.
He's a pro. That's the way we like it.
That's right. That makes easy editing.
Well, that's good.
Let me stop. Pause.